Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on my channel. Today, as you can probably tell by the title and what is in front of you, I'm going to be doing the 100 episodes tag. Now basically, if you don't know what this tag is, I have to salvage 100 episodes of Doctor Who, which does sound quite a lot. However, for the classic series, one episode is literally one episode. So for example, if I wanted to save all of the war games, that would be 10 episodes, and that would already be 10% of my list. So as you can probably tell, it's been quite hard for me to narrow it down to 100 episodes, and I have had to sort of sacrifice some of my favourite stories and probably your favourite stories as well. And yeah, it did get a little bit tight towards the end, but you'll see what I mean. So without further ado, sit back and relax. These are the 100 episodes that I would save. So kicking off with the first episode I would save is obviously An Unearthly Child Part 1. This is obviously British television history, really. I wouldn't save the entire story, it's just purely episode 1 because I think episode 1 is the best in the 4 parts. It's brilliant, it introduces us to the characters and it is just so essential, so that is obviously the first one that I'd save. The next one, I have cheated a little bit, but I think I have cleverly cheated basically. So instead of saving all 7 parts of the Daleks, because that would already take us up to, what, 8 episodes? I decided to save Doctor Who and the Daleks movie from the Peter Cushing movies, which already, you know, it only takes up 1 spot because it is just a movie. So I don't know if this is really cheating, but I really enjoy the movie. I probably prefer it to the television William Hartnell serial. So I think it's all great, and Peter Cushing is an amazing Doctor. So that's my opinion. Now I've got the Keys of Marinus, but I've only saved the first half of Keys of Marinus, purely because I think that is the best half of the story, and it's wonderful. It's always been one of my favourite stories. I did rewatch it recently. Isn't as good as I'd say what has been in previous watches, but still magnificent. So I'd save that. Then I'd save all of the Aztecs because I think it's a perfect story, well, a near perfect story, and it's a brilliant example of a historical. And I definitely wanted to include a historical in there. It's only 4 parts, but it's wonderful. I really enjoy it. So I think that's essential. Again, I have cheated again on the next one, but I've saved the Dalek Invasion of Earth 2150 AD movie because it's great, and the Dalek Invasion of Earth is a great story, but I couldn't really sacrifice 7 spots or however many parts it is, so I've gone with the Peter Cushing movie again with Bernard Cribbins, who is my favourite character in that movie. Next we have the 10th Planet episode 4. As a story, the 10th Planet is okay. It's been a while since I watched it, but I think I sort of had to include part 4 because, well, it's the regeneration, isn't it? And that's quite essential. So, and it's the first appearance of the Cybermen. Well, not actually in episode 4, but on this list at least. And yeah, needed some of them in it. Then we have Power of the Daleks episode 1, pretty much for the same reason as the 10th Planet. Introduces the new Doctor. It just sort of sets at the scene. Yeah, it's not one of my favourite episodes, but I think just because of what it stands for, it is quite essential. And then we have the Faceless Ones Part 1. Why did I include the Faceless Ones Part 1? Well, I think it's a brilliant story. I really enjoyed Part 1, where, you know, with the big plane. It's just really good, and I wanted to sprinkle a little bit of not necessarily essential stories, but just good little 25-minute parts, and I think Part 1 is brilliant. Tomb of the Cybermen, I've had to save all 4 parts in this one. It's a brilliant base underlead story. It's the first proper appearance of the Cybermen in this list, and they deserve it because they're brilliant villains, and this is just such a good story. Now I've saved the last 2 parts of The Enemy of the World, which is a little bit random, I know, but it's a brilliant story, but I couldn't really use all 6 parts, sadly, because we're already a quarter of the way through our list, which is quite scary, but I think parts 5 and 6 are great examples of the story. And I've continued that with the first 3 parts of The Web of Fear, which is one of my favourite Troughtons as well, and I think it's brilliant. And I've had to include part 3 because that is missing, and it's the first appearance of the Brigadier, and the Yeti are in it, and they're so cool, and I love it. Now I've saved Fury from the Deep Part 6 because Victoria obviously leaves in the story, and I think it is a really, really good exit for a companion. I believe this episode features like helicopters, and it's quite cool, if I remember from the animation. It's brilliant, and hopefully, you know, one day in the future, Food from the Deep will be actually found, because although the animation is great, it's just, you know, it's not the same, is it? Next, we've got the last half of the War Games. Again, if I could, I would save all 10 parts, but I love this story so much. It's definitely my favourite Troughton story. But the last 5, I think, would do it justice. Brilliant story, can't complain. Troughton regenerates, excellent. I have saved all 4 parts of Spearhead from Space because it is a perfect example of a post-regeneration story. The Autons are brilliant in it. It's just all round an amazing story, so I couldn't really let this one go. Then the last 2 parts of Inferno. Inferno is one of my favourite Pertwees. It might be my favourite Pertwee, but again, it's 7 parts and I couldn't really justify that. So a couple of episodes of Inferno, you know, wouldn't harm anyone. And then we've got, this might be a little controversial, all 4 parts of The Curse of Peladon, which is definitely an amazing story. Alpha Centauri, very political, but it's not Earth-based either. But it's just awesome. I love the story and I couldn't really let that one go either. Then we've got the first 2 parts of the Sea Devils. Don't really have a reason, but I just think it's brilliant. You do briefly see the episode, the Sea Devils themselves in the first 2 parts. It's just great, isn't it? Then we've got the first half of the Time Monster, which might be controversial, but yeah, the first half is definitely the strongest half of this story. It's just brilliant. Roger Delgado as the Master, needed a little bit more of him, I think, and he does shine in this episode for me. So then we've got the Green Death Part 5 and 6. Again, lovely story. Joe Grant's exit, which is brilliantly done. It might be my favourite exit for a companion in the classic series. It's just so well handled, and hey, you can't go wrong with a bit of Pertwee, can you? And as you can see, we're already halfway, so this does include New Who as well, and I won't lie to you, it did get a little bit tight when we got to New Who, so sorry about that. This is mainly Classic Who. Then we've got all 4 parts of Robot. Again, a lovely post-regeneration story. The K1 robot is just so iconic, and it's brilliant, so that is why I've included that on the list. It's just amazing. A brilliant story for Tom Baker and Liz Sladen, and everyone really. Next up, we've got Genesis of the Daleks. Now, again, this might be a bit controversial because I haven't included all 6 parts. I would say it is a little bit overrated, but still a brilliant outing for Tom, Harry and Sarah. I love the dynamic between the 3 of them, so I couldn't, you know, season 12 is an amazing season, so I just needed to sprinkle a little bit of more in there. And this does have the iconic scene of "Do I have the right?", which I couldn't really let go either, so that's why that's there. And then we have parts 4 to 6 of the Seeds of Doom. I rewatched this one very recently, and it's just excellent, so can't fault it at all. Again, I would save all 6 parts if I could, but 100, you know, is quite tight, so that would already take up like 6%. But it's amazing, and I do think the latter half is a little bit stronger than the first half. Then we have all of the Robots of Death, and an amazing murder mystery. I just can't fault this at all, really. It's definitely in my top 10 stories of all time. Yeah, Vok robots are amazing, and I couldn't really only save half of it because I'd feel awful. So I think all 4 parts are very amazing. Now, you might have guessed it, The Talons of Weng-Chiang is my favourite story of all time, therefore I couldn't not save all of the parts. I think it's amazing, and everyone knows that this is my favourite story of all time, so Talons of Weng-Chiang, it's just, without a doubt, it had to be saved. Then we've got the first 2 parts of Horror Fang Rock, purely for the atmosphere. It's one of my favourite stories again, really good. But again, I couldn't really justify all 4 parts, but the first half of it is brilliant, probably stronger than the latter half as well. So again, that's why I saved that. Moving on, I've saved the middle 2 parts of The Pirate Planet just because it's such a fun episode, and I would say that the middle is really where it gets going, and It's just awesome. I love this story, it's so underrated. So yeah, I'd say the middle parts of that one. Then we've got Sharda. This one's a bit weird really because it doesn't have parts. I know it should have had parts, but on the DVD release it is just like one big feature-length movie, so that is what I've included it as. It's lovely, again one of the best from season 17. I do count it as canon and I do count it as season 17. I know some people don't, but I definitely do and I'd save it. Then we have Earthshock, all of Earthshock, just because it's an amazing story in my opinion, one of Fifth Doctor's best stories. Adric obviously dies, you've got some Tegan, Nyssa in there, you've got some Cybermen in there, it's just great. Then I'd save the Five Doctors. Again, this doesn't really have parts, so I just have called it Episode X. It's iconic, it's essential, I couldn't really not save it, so that's why I chose that. Then we have Vengeance on Varos. I won't lie to you, this is my only Sixth Doctor story on this list, purely because I think his stories are quite weak on the whole, but this is a brilliant story, Vengeance on Varos, so I had to save both parts. It's lovely, and Syl is amazing in it. Now we've got Paradise Towers Episode 1. Anyone who knows me knows that I love season 24, so I couldn't not include some season 24 in it. Again, it's only one episode, so it doesn't affect the list too much, but hey, I need more McCoy. So likewise, I've done Delta and the Bannermen Episode 1 as well, just for that reason. And then we skip over to season 26 with all of the Curse of Fenric, which I think I could have included all of season 26 to be honest, and got rid of New Who, but hey, I was fair. Curse of Fenric has to stay, it's one of the best stories of all time. Now moving on to New Who, I have missed out the movie, just because I don't enjoy it that much, I just don't think it's worthy of the list, but I've had to save Rose obviously because, well, it's essential, and I've only got 10 new episodes to save now, which obviously is very tricky. I think I realised at this point that actually I might be in a little bit of trouble here. So I've saved Dalek because, again, essential, brilliant episode. Christopher Eccleston's amazing, Rose is amazing, it's just so good. I've moved over to The Impossible Planet. Definitely my favourite Tennant story, so creepy, so atmospheric. It's definitely better than The Sated Pit, which is the second half of it. It's just great. Yeah, can't really fault that at all. Then we've got Gridlock, again a nice little gem from series 3, can't really complain, it's amazing. Martha's in it as well, this is the only story that she's in on this list, and I think she shines in it, it's brilliant. And then we've got Midnight, again really atmospheric, creepy, it shows Tennant's amazing acting skills, the cast are on top form, I couldn't really not include it. But that's it for Tennant. Moving on, I would save the 11th Hour because it was the first ever story I saw live on TV, so it has a proper place in my heart, I'd say. So really, a really amazing episode as well. Definitely very fairy tale like. Series 5 is my favourite New Who series. Time of Angels again, can't complain, it's one of my favourites of all time. I remember it vividly going out. It's excellent, it's absolutely excellent. So Weeping Angels as well, I had to at least put an episode from them in on the list. Amy's Choice, again, this might be a bit controversial, however, I really enjoy this one. It's so bonkers, but it's so creepy at the same time, and it's so enjoyable, really enjoyable. Another one from Series 5, we have The Hungry Earth. Again, Silurians, excellent. It is quite similar to The Silurians from 1970, however that was 7 parts, but this is excellent, just as good, really enjoy it. But that's it for the Matt Smith era now. Sorry Series 6, sorry Series 7, but we're on to Deep Breath because we've got like 3 episodes left. Deep Breath and then 2 others, but Deep Breath is an amazing post-regeneration story, so good, I remember it going out clearly. Historical as well, Capaldi's in it, Jenna Coleman's in it, it's just awesome, and it's quite long as well, so. And then the penultimate story on this list, again quite controversial, Knock Knock. Again, it's not anything amazing, but I think just for the atmosphere, and it's really, I love this episode. I don't know why it gets bashed, but I had to include it. So the final story on this list, and sorry Jodie Whittaker fans, but it is not Jodie Whittaker's story. That's not because I really hate her, I don't, although she is my least favourite Doctor, but purely because I had one spot left and it had to go to World Enough in Time. Because it's amazing, and I love the Series 10 finale, I love Series 10 as a whole. I would save all of Series 10 if I could, but this is so good. One of my favourite episodes of all time. The cliffhanger is lovely. I remember it going out as well, so it's just awesome and I can't complain. But that there, I can't speak today. That there, everyone, is my 100 episodes tag. So I know that is probably quite controversial. I believe I meant to tag someone else now, but because no one really comes to mind, I just tag anyone that watches this and that wants to do the tag. So yep, you are tagged. So if you make videos and are keen to do this, off you go. I give you permission to do this video. So it did take me a long time, so I'd really appreciate it if you could give this video a thumbs up and maybe just a little comment down below, commenting on some of my choices. I know they were quite random choices, but nonetheless I hope you've enjoyed this episode and this video from me. So thanks very much for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next video, whenever that may be.